The Lutici were a federation of West Slavic Polabian tribes, who between the 10th and 12th centuries lived in what is now northeastern Germany. 4 tribes made up the core of the federation: the Redarians, Circipanians, Kessinians and Tollensians. At least in part, the Lutici were a continuation of the Veleti. In contrast to the former and the neighboring peoples, the Lutici were not led by a Christian monarch or duke. Rather, power was asserted through consensus formed in central assemblies of the social elites, and the Lutici worshipped nature and several deities. The political and religious center was Radgusk. The Lutici were first recorded by written sources in the context of the uprising of 983, by which they annihilated the rule of the Holy Roman Empire in the Billung and northern marches. Hostilities continued until 997. Thereafter, tensions with the empire eased, and in 1003 the Lutici entered an alliance with the emperor against Duke Boleslaw I of Poland. However, by 1033 the alliance broke apart, and a German-Lutician war broke out that lasted until 1035, when the Lutici became tributaries of the empire again, but otherwise retained their independence. A civil war between the core tribes began the decline of the Lutici in 1056–57. The neighboring Obodrites intervened and subdued the northwestern faction. In 1066, the Lutici succeeded in stirring up a revolt against the Obodrite elites, in the course of which John, the Bishop of Mecklenburg, was captured and sacrificed at Radgusk. As a consequence, the Bishop of Halberstadt and the Emperor sacked and destroyed Radgusk in subsequent campaigns, and its role as the leading pagan cult site was taken over by the Swantwit Temple at Arkona. Another civil war in the 1070s led to a further decline of the Lutician Federation, who then were unable to resist conquests and looting by the neighbors in the following decades. During the first half of the 12th century, the settlement area of the Lutici was partitioned between Obodrite principalities, the later Duchy of Mecklenburg, the reconstituted Northern March, which became the Margraviate of Brandenburg, and the Duchy of Pomerania. The Lutici were converted to Christianity, and in the 13th century were assimilated by German settlers and became part of the German people during the Ostsiedlung. Veleti origins. At least in part, the Lutici were a continuation of the Veleti, who were referred to by sources of the late 8th and first half of the 9th centuries as having inhabited the same region, and according to the Bavarian geographer were likewise organized in 4 tribes. Whether the Lutici were ethnically identical with the Veleti remains unproven. Contemporary chronicles sometimes connect the Lutici to the Veleti, e.g. Adam von Bremen refers to them as Luticios Pcialio nomine Wiltsi dicunta, and Helmold von Bossor says Hiiqua or Populia fortitudine Wiltsi sive Lutici appellanta. Modern scholarship sometimes refers to both entities by a double name, e.g. Wills and Lutazan in German or Wielesi Lucis in Polish. In the second half of the 9th century, the Veleti disappeared from written records. Lutician tribes first appear in written records after this gap. The Redai were mentioned first in 928 by Widukind of Corvey, who listed them in the context of Slavic tribes subdued by Henry I. Incidentally, this list also contains the first mention of the Veleti after before-mentioned gap, and the Redarians are listed as a separate entity from the Veleti. In 955 the Tollensians and Circipanians are first mentioned in the Annals of St. Gallen, likewise in addition to the Veleti, in the context of the Battle of Regnance. This co-listing of Veleti with Redarians, Tollensians and or Circipanians was however not repeated in subsequent records, e.g. the Ottonian documents do not mention the Veleti at all, while repeatedly explicitly referencing Redarians, Tollensians, Circipanians and other tribes in the respective area. Furthermore, there are only very few mentions of the Veleti in 10th century sources. In addition to before-mentioned records, the Veleti are referenced only in the Annals of St. Gallen in 995 and in the Annals of Quedlinburg in 995 and 997. According to Fritzi, this reflects the uncertain nomenclature after the Veleti's decline, at least as a political entity, in the mid-9th century. A variant of the designation, Lutici, was first recorded in the Annals of Hildesheim in 991, and starting in eastern Saxony. This name was gradually adopted by other chroniclers. The first mention of the Kessinians is an entry in Adam von Bremann's Gesta Hammerbergensis Ecclesiae Pontificum, referring to the year of 1056. Organization. The Lutici were a federation of several smaller tribes between the Warna and Milchnitz in the west, the Havel in the south and the Oder in the east, with the core formed by 4 tribes: Redarians, Tollensians, Kessinians and Circipanians. Within the federation, power was asserted by representatives of the clans and settlement communities. The highest political institution of both Veleti and Lutici was the Assembly of the Free, yet in contrast to the Veleti, who were led by a prince, the Lutici were a tribe without a ruler, meaning political power was asserted via discourse in an assembly. This type of government had its roots in the Veleti period. Since the mid-9th century, no Veleti princes or kings are recorded, and archaeology has revealed that in this period, many small strongholds were built in the area, in part on the ruins of the earlier, large strongholds. During the Lutician assemblies, decisions were made based on consensus, and once a decision had been made it was enforced by severe punishment of any violations. While similar types of government have been postulated for archaic Slavic societies, this was unusual for contemporary ones, who were usually led by a prince, duke or king asserting power via feudal dependencies. Though missing a monarch, the Lutici had a social hierarchy. Political power was asserted by nobles, priests and free farmers. A reference to social differentiation is made by Thema, who reported a progressive fine system imposing higher fines for offences on persons with a higher social status. Whether or not the Lutician tribes had a common ethnic identity remains speculative. The cultural differences to the neighbouring tribes were minor, while differences with the Saxon and Christian culture and military pressure asserted by the Holy Roman Empire have most probably resulted in a common identity, evidently in mutual solidarity expressed by the common councils and combined military campaigns. Thema refers to the resulting way of life as Libertas Luticio. The most important stronghold of the Lutici was Radgorsk, a Redagost in the territory of the Redai, after a period of dominance by the Heveli, centered on the other important Wendish stronghold of Brenna. The Redai became a dominant regional power themselves after the 930s. This is documented by the amount of silver tribute the Redai were to pay to the Holy Roman Empire, and the failure of the latter to permanently subdue the area despite multiple campaigns. Names and spelling variants. The name of the Lutici has survived in its many Latinized spelling variants used by contemporary chroniclers, most of which are still used in modern historiography in addition to their English, German and Polish renderings. The etymology of these terms is not sure. It has been proposed that they derive from the Slavic root *ljut, meaning wild or fierce, or from the Slavic root *lut or its Latin equivalent lutum, meaning swamp. The Polabian original might have been *Lutici, Serbian Lutici, meaning angry people. The names of the four sub-tribes relate to the respective settlement areas. The Kessini around the main stronghold Kessan on the lower Warnow, the Circipani were centered on the upper Peene, the Tollensians on the Tollens, and the Redarians lived south of Lake Tollenses around Radgorsk. In the latter case, though, it is unknown whether the name of the deity is the root of the strongholds and the tribe's name, or if it is the other way around, and alternative theories connect the name to a hypothetical river, Rada, or propose a translation as red-haired people. Earlier theories translating Redai as farmers, plowers, or warriors have been refuted. The names of these tribes likewise survived in various spelling variants, including Tollensane and Thollensi for the Tollensians, Circipani, Zarispani and Zarispani for the Circipanians, as well as Redari, Redai, and Redari for the Redarians.